The voice echoed around classroom, small and sweet, yet it chilled Mohamed to the bone. He spun around, axe raised, searching the dark. Nothing. Then the whisper came again, closer this time. Let's play. The overhead lights flickered back on, dim, pale, buzzing weakly. The classroom was empty now. No photo, no drawings. Just him, and something waiting. He backed into the hallway, only to find it transformed. The clean school hallway had become a nightmare. Walls now rusted, dripping black sludge, and locker doors torn open like gaping mouths. Children's drawings still clung to surfaces, but they had changed, now showing scenes of murder, fire, and a man running with red eyes behind him. Him. His heart thudded. He wasn't just in Silent Hill. He was becoming part of it. The bell rang again. And suddenly, at the far end of the hallway, children appeared. But they weren't real children. They crawled on all fours, skin pale and blistered, eyes hollow, their mouths too wide, filled with needle-like teeth. They wore school uniforms soaked in blood, and they were moving fast. Mohamed turned and ran down the corridor, kicking open the nearest door and slamming it shut behind him. He braced it with a desk just in time, small bodies thudding against the other side as tiny fingers clawed under the gap. He turned and searched the classroom for anything useful. Then he saw it, on the chalkboard scrawled in red, "Room 302. She waits." Another message, another direction, another trap? He didn't know, but it was the only lead he had. The scratching at the door grew louder. He moved to the back of the classroom, where a narrow crawl space had been broken open in the wall, too small for the things chasing him, but just large enough for him. He crawled in. The space was tight and dark, filled with spiderwebs and broken bits of toys and bones, child-sized bones. He crawled until he reached the other side and pushed out into a hallway. A new one, clean again, silent. He stood up, covered in dust, just beneath a painted sign that read, "Room 302," and at the end of that hall. The little girl in white stood silently, facing the wall, waiting. Mohamed took a cautious step forward. The hallway was still, eerily still. The fluorescent lights above buzzed faintly, but the silence between their flickers felt louder than any scream. The little girl in white stood motionless at the end of the corridor, her face turned toward the wall, her long black hair falling down her back like a curtain. She didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't seem alive. But Mohamed knew better by now. He gripped the fire axe tighter and walked slowly toward her, each footstep echoing down the long hallway. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low and shaking. The girl didn't respond. He stopped a few feet behind her, his heart pounding. Then, without turning, she spoke. "You left me behind." Mohamed blinked. "What?" "You forgot me," she whispered, "like everyone else." Slowly, she turned around. Her face was pale. Hollow eyes stared up at him, but there were no tears, only a strange sadness, something ancient and impossible to understand. Her dress was torn at the bottom and stained with something dark, and her feet were bare, bruised. "I don't know you," he said, trying to hold his ground. "I've never seen you before." The girl shook her head slowly. "You will." She reached out and touched his hand. Flash! A sudden burst of images hit him like a wave, a dark room, a crib, a crying child. And himself, standing outside a door, hesitating, walking away. He stumbled back, gasping. "What? What was that?" But the girl was gone. Only silence remained. And behind him, room 302. The door creaked open slowly. He hesitated, then stepped inside. The room looked like a child's bedroom. Faded wallpaper covered in stars and moons. A small bed with a stuffed rabbit on it. Toys scattered across the floor. And on the desk, a journal. He picked it up and opened the first page. "My name is Alina. I don't like the dark. Daddy left me there when he went away." Mohamed's hands trembled. His name wasn't mentioned, but something about the handwriting, the drawings, the pain in the words. It felt too close, too familiar. And then he saw the last entry. "He'll come back. I know he will. I'll wait here, even if the monsters come." I won't forget him, even if he forgot me. The lights flickered. The closet door creaked open behind him, and from the darkness inside, something breathed. Mohamed froze, the journal slipping from his hands as the sound from the closet deepened, a low, raspy breathing, wet and irregular, like something struggling just to exist. The closet door creaked open wider, shadows curling out across the floor. He stepped back, axe raised, heart pounding in his chest. Then a hand emerged, not a child hand. It was long, gray, with fingers like sharpened bones. Another hand followed, gripping the frame of the closet. Then, with a sickening slither, a figure pulled itself out. It was tall and impossibly thin, its body covered in twisted skin like melted wax. Its face, if it had one, was a blank mass of flesh, with only a gaping mouth in the center, lined with jagged teeth. It shrieked, not a scream of rage or pain, but a scream of loss. Mohamed backed into the corner of the room as the creature lunged. He dodged just in time, its claws raking through the wall beside him. He swung the axe, catching in the shoulder. The thing stumbled back, letting out another broken cry. It didn't bleed. It just shuddered like it was made of memory, not flesh. It charged again. This time, Mohamed didn't run. He ducked low, sweeping the axe across its legs. The creature collapsed, writhing on the floor, shrieking so loudly the walls began to crack. The bedroom flickered, walls turning briefly to rusted metal, then back again, like reality itself was glitching. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature dissolved into black smoke, leaving behind a faint, childlike whisper. I waited. Silence fell once more. Mohamed stood there, drenched in sweat, hands shaking. He had no idea what that thing was, but it felt personal, like it had been born from the girl's pain. Or maybe from his. He looked back at the journal, now open to a new page that hadn't been there before. Find me at the church. Before he does. A new destination, a new threat, and a name began to whisper itself in Mohamed's mind, one he hadn't heard yet, but somehow knew was real. The Red Father. Mohamed stepped out of school, shaken but alive. The air had changed again, thicker, heavier. The fog wasn't just cold now. It pressed against him like invisible hands. He checked the map. Church of the Holy Way, just a few blocks west. The streets were empty, but not silent. Somewhere, beneath the layers of mist and rust, he could hear chanting, faint, distant, like a broken choir stuck on repeat. As he walked, the chanting grew louder. Low voices, inhuman voices, repeating the same three words over and over again. Red Father, Red Father, Red Father. He found the church at the end of a long, cracked street. It was a towering building, Gothic in design, with sharp spires and shattered stained glass windows. The massive wooden door stood open, inviting or warning. He stepped inside. The interior was lit by hundreds of candles, their flames flickering even without wind. The pews were filled with mannequins, all dressed in tattered robes, their blank faces turned toward the altar. Mohamed walked slowly down the aisle, his boots echoing on the stone floor. On the altar stood a massive painting, almost a mural, of a red-robed figure with no face, just a mouth filled with rows of blackened teeth. In his arms, he held a little girl in white, the same girl, Alina. Suddenly, all the candles went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Then, thud, footsteps, heavy ones. Approaching from behind the altar, a figure emerged tall, draped in red robes, face hidden beneath a hood. But Mohamed could feel it. Power, hatred, memory. The figure raised one hand, pointing directly at him. You should not have come here, it said in a voice like crumbling stone. She is mine now. Who are you? Mohamed demanded, stepping back. What is this place? I am the voice of guilt, it said, the shape of what you tried to bury. You ran once, but here. You remember. The room began to shake. The mannequin congregation turned toward him all at once, heads twitching. She waits for you, the Red Father said. But when you reach her, she will not forgive. The Red Father lifted his arms. The ground cracked open beneath Mohammed's feet. He fell into fire, into darkness, into a place below even Silent Hill. And as he descended, he heard a child's voice again, whispering, "You left me." Mohammed hit the ground hard. The air forced from his lungs. He lay still for a moment, groaning in pain, his head spinning. Slowly, he pushed himself up and looked around. He wasn't in the church anymore. This place, it was a basement, but far older than any man-made structure. The walls were carved stone, damp and covered in ancient symbols. The floor was slick with water or blood, and the air was thick with the scent of rot. Chains hung from the ceiling. He stood, limping slightly, the fire axe still gripped in his hand. Somewhere ahead, down a corridor lit only by torchlight, he could hear crying. A child. Alina? He moved forward. The hallway twisted unnaturally, turning when it shouldn't, walls warping in and out like the corridor itself was breathing. Shadows moved without light, and whispers filled the air. He passed a cell with rusted bars. Inside was a figure curled in a corner, whimpering. When Mohammed approached, the figure turned. It was himself, pale, gaunt, eyes empty. The doppelganger whispered, "You could have saved her. You could have stayed." Mohammed backed away. "You're not real." But it didn't stop talking. "She cried for you. She called your name. But you were too busy running, too afraid to face what you left behind." He turned and fled, the whispers growing louder with every step. Finally, he reached a chamber at the end of the tunnel. In the center of the room was a crib. Small, white, stained red. Inside, curled in a ball, was the little girl, Alina. Mohammed ran to her. "Alina, I'm here." She looked up slowly. Her eyes were filled with tears. "You left me. Again," she said softly. "You always leave." "I didn't know," he said, voice shaking. "I didn't remember." "But now you do," she whispered. Suddenly, the room went dark. A presence filled the chamber. Heavy, malevolent. The Red Father stepped into the firelight behind them, his voice booming through the stone walls. "She is the weight of your guilt," he said. "You don't get to hold her. You don't get to save her." Mohammed stood in front of Alina, raising the axe. "No," he said, voice steady. "I won't run this time." The Red Father roared, and the battle began.